We have a very nice session and nicely presented all the abstracts. So, without wasting time, I would like to discuss the first abstract. It was a good study. The only concern is that they have shown that the sensitivity of the lower lobe of the lung is more. So, if Amandeep could answer this, so what is the reason that why this lower lobe is more sensitive in the lung?
So it might be dependent upon the response of the DNA to the damage caused by the radiation and also on the repair capacity of the genes.
Okay, so it means like because they have shown that the in proton therapy the result was better, not because of the spatial distribution of the dose, but because of the radiosensitivity and the area treated by the proton was other than the radiosensitive area, whereas in the IMRT, the dose was
Yes, sir.
more in the radiosensitive area. So
Yes, sir.
I was just wondering if we contour this lower lobe in the IMRT, so
Yes, sir.
and give the dose constraint, so we will be able to save that area. So this could
Yes,
be
sir. Adding that additional constraint to lower the dose to the lower lobe of the lung will be a good alternative. But I'm not clear about the thing that do we have a tolerance limit additionally for the lower lobe of the lung or not?
yeah
Because in
exactly
total we will be seeing the tolerance limit for the lung in total.
yeah
But yeah, to reduce the dose, we can additionally add that constraint.
Okay. Anybody would like to add? And just I want to say that because in this panel discussion, we don't have Dr. Divya and Dr. Shabab. So Dr. Sunil from Varanasi is joining. So welcome, Dr. Sunil Chaudhary. So anybody would like to comment on that from the panel?
Actually, yeah, what I feel in this, like she has discussed about passive scattering proton therapy and IMRT. Do we really reduce the radiation exposure or the incidence of radiation pneumonitis with this? Or do we have a better control on the local failure with this passive scattering proton therapy? I think it's a bit too early to like know about these things. What do you say?
Okay. Any comment on that?
Yes, so we can study further on this part. Yeah, it might be some early to say about this thing.
Yeah, that's right. But only thing which I see, because they have shown that there is a sensitive portion, because generally we take mean dose or the V20. So here I think if we give the separate constraint in the sensitive area, I think that is the take home message. So let us go to the next abstract. It was a good study where they have divided the uh, say city images and pet images into three habitats, and they have studied. They could tell the outcome of the prognosis. They can predict the prognosis. So this study basically, to do that study or to practice this thing, we need a PET scan, and more data is required because the number of patients were less. So, and I was wondering because SUV value they depend upon body mass index also. So, anybody would like to comment on that?
May I pitch
Because,
in?
yeah, Dr. Sunil, please. Yeah.
See, as a general rule, any suspicious lesion which is there on MRI and which shows increased FDG uptake
Okay.
is usually represents tumor recurrence,
Right.
right? So, and maybe that 18 FDG is not useful for brain to detect brain mets or recurrence or necrosis, but it can be replaced with 11 carbon methionine.
But Dr. Sunil, this is regarding oropharyngeal cancer. So in this,
Okay, okay.
they have studied this in oropharyngeal cancer.
Okay, sorry. I was thinking.
Yeah. So let us go to the next abstract. Uh, yeah, this is a interesting one, acute toxicity pattern in ART for head and neck cancer.
Yeah.
In this, basically, just I want to know that they have taken, they have done re-simulation in third, fifth, and seventh week. So, what are the bases basically? What are the bases of this timeline to do the replanning in third, fifth, and seventh week? Anybody would like to comment on that?
It's very debatable actually. The timing is it's a controversial issues. Like different that as per the literature, there is no fixed timeline when ART should be done. Some
Right.
suggest 2 weeks,
Yeah.
after 2 weeks, or after 3 weeks. Usually, the tumor shrinkage is after 3 to 5 weeks of radiotherapy. So
Okay.
probably after 3 to 5 weeks, it should be done. But
Right.
patients who have gross shrinkage of the disease, or there's severe weight loss, or patients with advanced T stage.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the patients where ART may be done, should be individualized. The timing should be individualized in these patients.
Right. I think you're right. And what about the
Actually,
accident?
special, Dr. Lalit, one
Yeah,
minute.
yeah, yeah,
When
ma'am.
there is a very large node or something like that, the lesion is very bulging out. So that regresses sometimes very fast. So in that
Okay.
case, adaptive radiotherapy will help if we replan it and we retake the CT for that.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
even the cost get loose with that.
Yeah, very right. And should we shrink initial PTV? There's a big question mark on that because in this study, this study is silent on that. They talk of the
Yeah,
carotid gland. They don't talk of the
yeah.
PTV. However, they have told in the conclusion that it could be effective in tumor also. But just I want to
Yes.
know, should we shrink the PTV or not?
There is no question of shrinking the PTV at all.
Right,
The
exactly.
initial PTV,
Yeah.
the initial pre-treatment volume should receive the complete dose.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, yes, very true, very true. So, what are the pros and cons of adaptive radiotherapy?
It's very
So,
labor intensive, and
yeah,
and requires lots of resource, and
yes,
even like we need to have deformable image registrations and automatic segmentation to have ART in place.
right, right. Yeah, seems to be promising, but it is a labor intensive and lot of time is required. And
Yes,
then, especially in our country, it
technically
will
very
take
challenging.
very challenging. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, thank you. So we quickly move on to the abstract number 4. So this is a imaging-driven biophysical model for the differentiation of tumor progression from radiation necrosis. So it's a good study. Actually, now a lot of image feature you are extracting and you are able to predict. But I was just wondering that can we get the same result with the PET scan?
Good afternoon, sir. So PET is the functional imaging. So
Right.
I thought that with the PET scan, we have to include different parameters. Like in this study, which is basically based on the MRI. So they have just used the stress factors and the specificity and the sensitivity, and they plotted with the ROC characteristic curves. So
Exactly.
with the sir, with the PET scan, we can also do the same, but the parameters may vary.
That's right, because parameters will definitely vary because once you are doing on the MR imaging,
Yes,
and
sir.
only thing is that you can't do it with the FDG. You have to have a carbon 11 for this.
Yeah, yeah, yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any comment on that? Anybody from the panel?
See, occasionally, like most of the time, MRI is difficult. On MRI, it's difficult to really differentiate between a necrosis and a recurrence.
Yes, sir.
So ultimately, you need to do a biopsy, if you can avoid biopsy, so a PET is a good modality using 11-carbon methionine. So
Right.
if you can fuse MRI and PET together,
Yes, yes.
the
Yes, sir.
probability of finding out differentiating between necrosis and the recurrence would be higher.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Yes,
So I
right.
think if this type of study, whatever feature they have extracted, and they compare their result with the PET imaging, I think that will be more fruitful, and then they can have more robust data.
Yeah, so there is one more study on that PET scan also that is combined with the MRI, what the Dr. Sunil has suggested.
Okay.
So it is also very good.
Okay.
Means,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So coming to the last abstract, effective volume parotid gland for assessing radiation injury during radiation therapy for head and neck cancer. Uh, so I think this is a very interesting thing because generally we think that if the size of the parotid is shrinking, it is directly proportional to the xerostomia. But here they have shown that if you remove the fat component and then you take the effective volume, that is more correlating with the xerostomia. So, what is the opinion of the panelists? Anybody would like to comment on that? Ramita Sharma, I think you have presented this paper. Would you like to comment on that?
I think so. Hello.
Hello, yes, Ramita.
So the xerostomia, I think that we can in the study, like they have taken the daily CT data before just the RT,
Right.
but this method is not so much easy for the every patient or for the in the centers where they have more lot of workload. So we
Okay.
can't take the daily city based data, and it will increase the workload for the doctors also for contouring daily the parotid glands and other fat tissues. And yes, this method is if we can if we can reduce the dose, like mean dose less than 26 grain, that will be the best way if we can reduce the dose to the parotids. But if there is no option, then there are chances that we know the xerostomia will occur with some grades. As the dose will increase, the rate of xerostomia also will increase. So
Yeah, one thing in this case, like when they draw the PTV, most of the time, a good portion of the PTV goes into the parotid.
yes.
So if you make a parotid excluding the PTV, that will give you a different dose. But if you take as a whole, the dose will be definitely higher.
Higher. Yes, we are taking the PTV parotid minus PTV for the planning.
Yeah.
That's
Find
okay,
out.
but the part which is in the PTV, that is getting the higher dose. So xerostomia will be affected by that dose. Though if we exclude it and we see the remaining parotid, then of course the dose will be lesser to that part, but it will not reduce the xerostomia. So it has to be overall dose to the parotid. That should be reduced. Like if we are able to achieve less than 24, that should be good.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other comment on this?
Can I add something?
Yeah, Dr. Sunil, please.
I beg to differ to what Dr. Pasi said. Like this study clearly shows that the effective volume is more relevant in terms of the xerostomia than the physical dose.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Right. So if
No,
we can,
that is there, but only if we differentiated the effective volume and the parotid gland volume.
Yeah.
But in our practice, we don't do it.
It's difficult to differentiate on a city based on the city. It has to be an algorithm based.
Yeah.
We need to
That
have
is
an
the
auto
issue.
segmentation or some algorithm where the computer itself will help us in teasing out the effective volume from the glandular volume from the fat.
Yeah, that system has to be there.
Yeah, very
That
right.
software
Actually,
has to be there.
Yeah, because whatever all studies were there where they were extracting the features from the image, and this study where they have calculated the fat effective volume from the city number. So now in the future TPS, we will have all these parameters, all these feature extraction methods. So now future planning system will be more than the planning system, where we can have these things incorporated in the
Yeah.
planning system, where we can calculate the effective volume, because these are the formula based. So these algorithms you can put it into the computer, and so TPS will be able to calculate the effective volume. So I think these are the future of the treatment planning system. So
It's a way forward, actually.
yeah, way forward, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So thank you all the panelists, and I thank Dr. Pasi and panelists, Dr. Amandeep, Dr. Kanchan, Dr. Ramita, Dr. Sunil, and the presenter, Dr. Balbir Singh, and I thank Dr. Neeraj Jain for giving us the opportunity. Thank you very much, and I hand over the mic to organizer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Neeraj, and for giving this nice opportunity to meet everyone and to have a very wonderful discussion with all. And I think this COVID-19 didn't affect your enthusiasm and your dedication toward academics. Thank you, Dr. Neeraj.
Thank you.